It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast for 2023, available every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify and Apple, and of course wherever you get your good podcast from. Well, here we are again. It didn't take long to get back into another weekend mode. Of course, a short week definitely helps. And another Saturday morning, the 28th day for January. And if you're attending any auctions today, perhaps you're doing some negotiating, or maybe you're closing and transacting out a property deal, whatever it is across Australia this weekend, the very best of luck. Coming up this morning, we are very shortly going to be talking with Anthony Landahl with our Mortgage Talk series and looking at rates and prices possibly, just possibly stabilising, and maybe property investors being drawn back into the market. I'm sure that Anthony is going to give his advice about some optimism and whether the investors feel optimistic enough to come back into the market. Yes, I think the first quarter of 2023 is going to be an interesting one. And if you're looking for something to watch this weekend, I watched a couple of nights ago the Bernie Madoff story. It's called The Monster of Wall Street. If you're like me, I knew a few things that were going on with Madoff, but I certainly didn't realise just how much of a madman he was with keeping all the cards up in the air. And that is a very good watch. So check that one out, The Monster of Wall Street.
It's your Saturday morning real estate breakfast.
And right now it's time for another 30-second property tip, this time with Deborah Brady from Ray White there in Perth. And what have you got for us this morning, Deborah?
First tip is, if you're coming in with your partner to a home open, know what you both want together. Have that worked out. I've seen people miss properties because they haven't actually conceptualised between the two of them what they're both after together, and they've missed an opportunity. So have those discussions so that you both really know what you want.
That is so true. I have seen that firsthand at open homes when a couple literally just separate, split off from each other, go in different directions, and they don't stay together talking about the property. Thank you for that, Deborah.
All right. Well, Craig, thank you so much. And please just tell all those listeners there's lots of opportunities across the whole of WA.
It's your weekend real estate breakfast, a serial-sized podcast about what's happening in your local backyard every Saturday morning on the Real Estate Podcast.
And if you're celebrating your birthday today, happy birthday for January the 28th. You are sharing your birthday with Elijah Woods, who's turning 41. Alan Elder from MASH is turning 86 today. And I was quite surprised that Sarah McLachlan is turning 54, the Canadian singer-songwriter. And it was also on this day back in 1986. Terrible. I still remember watching this at the time, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploding. It broke apart 73 seconds after liftoff, killing all of the 7 astronauts on board.
It's the Main Centre forecast.
And we head to Sydney first off, expecting a bit of a cloudy day, but fine periods, your high of 30 degrees. Melbourne, expect the sunshine, a little bit of cloud as well, but 35 is your forecast high. Brisbane, cloudy but fine and dry, expecting 31 degrees. And in Perth today, expecting blue skies and 32 is your forecast top.
We feature market updates, interviews and trends. It's your real estate podcast for breakfast.
Well, in the first quarter of 2023, are we facing off with two sides of a coin? On one side, there are a number of conflicting economic factors creating both uncertainty and indicating on the other side of the coin some stability may be on the horizon. There are early signs of a slight shift in the Australian economy as monetary policy starts to take hold overspending decisions. So with the prospect of rates and prices stabilising, is there the possibility 2023 could be shaping up for the property investor? Well, here to discuss all of this and what he thinks is Anthony Landahl, Managing Director and founder of lending finance brokerage Equilibria Finance. And good morning, Anthony. Welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast.
G'day, Craig. Great to be here again, mate.
And this morning we're going to have a look at the investor and the cash rate rises. Now, they're all about curbing people's spending. The RBA hopes this is going to do the trick, of course, for inflation. Investors, Anthony, are they set for a good year in 2023?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's something we've been talking to a lot of our clients about, is the runway for investors in 2023. Some background on that is that the investor activity was one of the sharpest drops over the last 12 months. It fell 20% in April to October 2022. But I actually think investors are set for a pretty strong comeback in 2023. There's a confluence of factors, as you said, that are starting to stabilise with monetary policy, inflation. The housing market decline is slowing. And I think investors have been sitting on the sidelines and are ready to come back into the market in 2023.
Yeah, it's probably a lot to do with mindset too, like particularly the end of 2022, and maybe their mindset, the investor's mindset, their behaviour is starting to change.
I think investor behaviour definitely shifted in 2022, and I think there's a shift in mindset in 2023, and that shift in mindset is to more optimism. And I think there's a reason for them to be optimistic. A lot of investors are now cashed up. They sat on the sidelines through COVID, maybe sold a property through the market highs or captured equity through their valuations being achieved through this time. There's rising rents, which are attracting very good yields for investors, which creates strong cash flows. Some rentals are increasing 10% over the year, and vacancy rates in some regions are below 1%. Good signs for investors. The borders are opening up again with migration. Money's still relatively cheap for investors, even with the rising interest rates. So credit access remains strong. So I think right now there's strong cash flow. The property market's cooled a little bit, and those number of factors I've just outlined make it a pretty good environment for investors coming into this year.
Yeah, I mean, particularly rent rises, because it's been absolutely phenomenal. And you might have the investor that's kind of been sitting in the background watching those rents just going up and up and up. And the second factor, of course, is the migration. I mean, those two things merging, that really is optimism for the investor to get in, and get in probably in the first quarter of 2023.
It sure is. And managing cash flow is one of the biggest things for an investor. And with these strong rental yields and the market cooling as well, which means that they're looking at opportunities that are going to come through with stronger capital growth over time. The property market right now is arguably less volatile than stocks, less exposed to some of the global forces. We've got migration back and strong cash flows. So I think savvy investors have sat on the sidelines, and they're already starting to make their move. We're seeing that with some of the credit applications that we're processing at the moment.
Well, you've got investors listening to you right now, Anthony, over a cup of coffee, Saturday morning, just relaxing, listening to, well, should I invest or not? So what do you say to the investors who might just be thinking of investing in the first quarter of this year? What's your advice to investors looking at entering the market or re-entering back into the market?
Yeah, an investment mindset is different to a home buyer mindset, but the core fundamentals of investment, whether it's property or stocks, fundamentally remain the same. Work out your strategy, what you want to achieve and your end goal. Is it a long-term investment? Is it about rental yields and cash flow, or are you looking for capital growth? That might be a different strategy. For example, are you trying to live off the income, or are you trying to maximise capital growth over time? What's really, really critical is do your homework on a good investment property. As I said, it's different to a home. It's an investment. It's an income-generating asset. Does the property have strong capital growth potential, for example? Understand a region, its infrastructure and its economy. Will it be easy to find tenants? What rental income be expected? What's the history of rental growth? What's the history of vacancy rates? So do some research on the regions you're looking at. And lastly, analyse your cash flow. What is affordable? What's the potential income and costs? Is it going to be cash flow positive and negative? So do your homework, take a long-term view around investing in the right areas and understand potential capital growth and understand the rental market in those areas.
Yeah, because you're talking to investors with your business every week. You're also talking to first home buyers. Now, they're two different animals, aren't they? You talk about money being cheap. Now, if you're an investor, you're completely different to a first home buyer. So the parameters, you're looking through a lens which is completely different.
Investors are looking through a totally different lens. Investors, it's about taking the emotion out of it, staying disciplined. In one sense, the interest rate environment for the moment is almost an inflationary hedge. Rates for investors are still relatively low compared to rental yields. There's the tax benefits of the investment with gearing in Australia. So an investment environment is totally different to a home buyer where they've got to live in the property, the interest repayments are non-deductible. There's a lot of emotion involved in that sort of purchase. So for an investor, it's about maintaining discipline, keeping the emotion to one side, and understanding your cash flow. And over time, a quality asset will stand the test of time through market up and downs.
Yes, maintaining discipline, that is for sure when it comes to investing. All right, Anthony, well, we'll leave it there. Enjoy your Saturday morning, and I look forward to talking soon.
Thanks, Craig. Great to be here again, mate, and we'll chat soon.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.